These are the most interesting vintage photos and unusual objects from the past. Let's get 100,000 subscribers. Plague doctors of the 17th century wore long wax cloaks, gloves and masks with beaks filled with herbs to filter out infected air. Such a suit was supposed to protect against the miasma that was considered the cause of the disease and prevent direct contact with infected people. Divers lift the anchor of a 13th century Mongolian ship off the coast of Takashima Island, Japan. The discovery is related to the failed invasions of the Mongol Empire in Japan in 1274 and 1281. The statue of Anubis, the god of the dead in ancient Egyptian mythology, discovered in the tomb of Pharaoh Tutankhamun in 1922. She guarded the entrance to the funeral chambers and symbolized the protection of the pharaoh in the afterlife. The Expo police camera, manufactured in New York from 1911 to 1924, was used for covert surveillance. Its compact size, comparable to a matchbox, made it possible to shoot unobtrusively. Residents of Antwerp, Belgium, celebrate Armistice Day on November 11, 1918. The event marked the end of the First World War and the surrender of Germany. Theodore Roosevelt, President of the United States, jumps over a fence on horseback circa 1902. This photo highlights his reputation as an energetic leader who combined politics with an active lifestyle. Metal roller skates with leather straps, produced in the middle of the 20th century. The design made it possible to attach them to ordinary shoes and adjust the size. Legendary boxer Jack Dempsey, left, imitates a punch at illusionist Harry Houdini, center, who is being held by boxing champion Benny Leonard, right. The photo was taken in the 1920s. Piet van der Zwaard, who weighed 206 kilos, was considered the fattest man in Europe in 1955. He was born in the Netherlands and became famous for his weight. The photo shows him in a car in the year of his greatest recognition. The photo, The Bat, was published in a German fashion magazine in 1951. The mask was created by French makeup artist Fernand Aubry. The image combines elements of high fashion and theatrical makeup. The death cap, invented in 1816 in the UK, served to protect graves from body snatchers. A metal device was installed on top of the coffin, preventing unauthorized removal of the body. The need for such protection arose due to the growing demand for cadavers for medical research. In 1953, Sean Connery competed in the Mr. Universe pageant before becoming famous for his role as James Bond. He took the third place in the category of tall athletes. This was one of the first steps of his public career. The entrance to the Roman temple of Bacchus in Baalbek is of monumental size. The height of the doorway is about 13 meters, which emphasizes the grandeur of Roman architecture. The temple was built in the 2nd century AD and is considered one of the best preserved religious buildings in Rome. The pedescope was used in 1920-1960 for foot X-ray directly in shoe stores. He allowed sellers and buyers to see how the shoes fit on the foot. It was later banned due to the risk of exposure. Jewelry with smelling salts was popular among ladies in the Victorian era. It contained a mixture capable of reviving fainting or relieving dizziness. They were worn as bracelets, pendants or rings, combining decoration and a utilitarian function. During his re-election, Grover Cleveland won the popular vote by a margin of 90,000 votes, but lost in the Electoral College by a margin of 65 votes. This deprived him of the post of President of the United States, despite the support of the majority of voters. The queue for free bread in New York, circa 1932. Such scenes were common during the Great Depression, when millions of Americans were left without jobs and livelihoods. The first cable railway in San Francisco, 1891. This type of transport used an underground moving cable to which wagons were attached, which made it possible to overcome the steep slopes of the city. Otho Frank, Anne Frank's father, visits the entrance to the attic in Amsterdam in 1960, where his family hid from the Nazis for 2 years before his arrest. He was the only one from the family who survived the Holocaust. Audrey Manson, known as America's first supermodel, survived a suicide attempt in May 1922 at the age of 30. After that, she lived in a specialized institution. Manson died in 1996 at the age of 104. A stuntman prepares to jump into a moving car, 1921. Such a trick required high precision and physical training, as it was performed without modern safety equipment. Street market in Paris, 1920s. The markets of that time were the centre of urban trade, where they sold fresh food, clothing and household goods. A man poses in front of a Soyuz rocket at the Baikonur Cosmodrome, Kazakh SSR, 1980s. Rockets of this type were used for manned and cargo launches as part of the Soviet space program. A wooden device used for whipping and softening freshly laundered laundry. This tool made it easier to spin and accelerated the drying of the fabric. A mechanical doll in the form of a young girl, created by French inventors in the 18th century. The machine could reproduce movements and simulate human actions, demonstrating the achievements of the mechanics of that time. Times Square in New York, 1898. At that time, the square was still called Longacre Square and was the centre of the city's transportation and commercial routes. A Filipino survivor of the Manila Massacre in 1945 shows a scar from an attempted beheading by a Japanese officer. The massacre of civilians occurred during the retreat of Japanese troops at the end of World War II. A scientist descends into the contaminated area of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in 1986. Such missions were conducted to assess damage and monitor radiation levels after an accident. In 1925, two artists unpack a ventriloquist doll used in entertainment acts. Similar dolls were popular on stage and in street performances of the time. Their expressive faces and moving details made it possible to create vivid comic images. Hurdler Wendy Gill, nicknamed the Woman with Steel Legs, prepares for the 1988 Olympics in Seoul. She was one of the strongest British athletes of her time. Her hard training and powerful technique have made her a notable figure in world athletics. Worm vending machine, 1957. Such devices were installed near fishing shops and marinas. They allowed fishermen to quickly purchase live bait at any time of the day. In 1916-1931, encephalitic lethargy, or sleeping sickness, swept the world, killing about 500,000 people. The disease caused a condition in which people remained conscious but could not move or speak, and survivors often developed severe neurological disorders. Beauty contest, 1920. During this period, such events gained popularity, reflecting changes in fashion and perception of female beauty. The participants often showed off their bathing suits and evening dresses in front of the jury and the public. In 1944, a German submarine disappeared along with 50 crew members. Its location remained unknown for more than half a century, until 66 years later, divers discovered the hull at a depth of about 120 metres in the Gulf of Genoa. The discovery has shed light on one of the maritime mysteries of the Second World War. An iron glove from 1361, which was part of the knight's armour. This armour protected the hand in battle while maintaining the mobility of the fingers. It was made of hardened iron and could weigh more than 1 kilogram. Tobacco enema was used in the 16th and 9th centuries for the resuscitation of drowned people and the treatment of certain diseases. Doctors believed that nicotine stimulates heart activity and breathing, and smoke warms the body. The method lost popularity after the detection of nicotine toxicity and the dubious effectiveness of the procedure. The smallest house in the UK, known as Key House, is located in Conwy, Wales. Its dimensions are approximately 3.05 metres high and 1.8 metres wide. The building dates back to the 16th century and is a popular tourist attraction today. What is possible and what is not in marriage? Tips written by Blanche Abbott in the UK in 1913. They provided recommendations for wives and husbands on family behaviour, reflecting household and social norms of the early 20th century. Today, these councils are seen as a historical example of the views on gender roles of that time. The American abolitionist Jonathan Walker, 1799–1878, was convicted in 1844 of trying to help 7 enslaved people escape to freedom. The emu was branded with the letters SS, slave thief. The photo was taken in August 1845. An inverted umbrella designed to collect rainwater. The liquid flows through the hose into a container that can be carried with you. The idea was supposed to help residents of arid regions. A group of women at a sawmill circa 1918. During the First World War, they replaced the men who went to the front, mastering difficult and dangerous professions. This period was an important step in increasing women's participation in industry. An automatic piglet feeder from the late 1950s. The device was equipped with a tape recorder which reproduced the sounds of the sow, stimulating the appetite of the animals. This technology helped to raise cubs without the mother's participation. Troops of the active army enter Istanbul in an armoured Hotchkiss vehicle during the events of March 31st, April 13th, 1909. It was an armed intervention to suppress an uprising against the reforms of the Young Turks. On August 6, 1945, a huge mushroom cloud rose over the Japanese city of Hiroshima. It happened 2 minutes after the explosion of the atomic bomb. The strike destroyed a significant part of the city and claimed tens of thousands of lives. The event became one of the key moments of the end of the Second World War. Elvis Presley, at the age of 24, with Priscilla Beaulieu, his future wife, who was 14 at the time. Their acquaintance took place in 1959 in West Germany, where Presley served in the US Army. Later, in 1967, they got married. Advertising the sale of houses in the USA in the 1950s. The cost of a 2-room house was $7,450 with a monthly payment of $47.92, and a 3-room house was $7,900 with a payment of $49.74. The price included interest on the loan, taxes, and insurance. University of Missouri Women's Shooting Club, 1934. Female students pose with training weapons, demonstrating their shooting skills. Similar clubs were popular in educational institutions in the United States in the first half of the 20th century. A weapon against grave robbers used in cemeteries in the 16th centuries. It was powered by a system of tripwires installed around the grave. Such a device served to protect burials from body snatchers in demand for medical research. Fuel shortage in the USA, 1970s. A man and a boy hold a warning sign for potential gasoline thieves near a Buick Skylark car. The fuel crisis of that time caused queues at gas stations and an increase in fuel theft cases. Leather wallet of the 16th to 16th century with a metal clasp in the form of an architectural composition. Such items were used to store coins and small valuables. The decorative lock emphasized the status of the owner. Construction of the dome of the U.S. Capitol Building, 1857. The new cast-iron dome replaced the original one, becoming a symbol of Washington and American architecture of the 19th century. The works continued during the Civil War, emphasizing the unity of the country. 2 women pose with dogs at an exhibition, 1915. A small dog settled behind the head of a large Irish wolfhound, creating an unusual shot. The ancient Greek clay oven of the 285 centuries BC was used for cooking and heating homes. The design made it possible to cook several dishes in clay vessels at the same time. The battleship USS Atlanta was built by the Confederacy in 1861. On June 17, 1863, the ship was captured and handed over to the Union Navy. The ship participated in the American Civil War, performing coastal defense and blockade tasks. Toaster forks were used in England to toast bread over an open fire before the advent of electric toasters. Later, tin pyramid toasters appeared, with coals smouldering inside and bread leaning against heated walls. In 1893, Alan McMasters created the first electric toaster, ushering in a new era in toasting. African American women apply to enroll in the Women's Army Auxiliary Corps, WAC, during World War II, USA, 1943. Tests of Dynasphere monocycles developed by J.A. Purves in the 1930s. The design was a huge wheel with a cabin inside, designed to transport passengers and cargo. A migrant girl carries a crate of cranberries during harvest in Burlington County, New Jersey, 1938. Children's work in agriculture in the United States was common during this period due to the economic depression. Unusual children's bike Gilly Cycle, 1970s. The design with one large central wheel and a protective ring around it provided stability and safety for small children. A farmer fills a bucket with Wyland's brand lard in Burlington County, New Jersey, 1938. Lard was actively used at that time for frying and baking, remaining an important product in the rural cuisine of the USA. Completion of the Transcontinental Railroad, May 10, 1869. Promontory Point, Utah. The meeting of the Central Pacific and Union Pacific locomotives symbolized the connection of the east and west of the United States, which reduced the time to cross the continent from several months to a week. An anti-communist rebel holds a Molotov cocktail behind his back during the 1956 Hungarian Revolution. The uprising began as a student demonstration in Budapest and quickly escalated into an armed conflict against Soviet influence. NBC radio sound effects technicians recreate the noise of a car accident by smashing an old car using a metal pipe. This method was used in the 1930s and 40s to record realistic sounds in radio dramas when digital effects did not yet exist. Antique cast iron drinking water column, Sweden. It was installed in the late 19th and early 20th centuries for public access to clean water before the advent of plumbing in homes. German motorcycle patrol with a carrier pigeon trailer. It was used during World War II to intercept birds carrying messages or cameras. An unusual scene from the 1930s. A car with a front stroller for a baby and an additional stroller on top for a dog. This solution was used for simultaneous transportation of a child and a pet. A woman demonstrates the safety of a new gas tank by holding an open flame over a fuel hose. The advertised double-check device was supposed to prevent explosions when refueling cars. Workers at the Electrolux factory are assembling household refrigerators. The production line is equipped with equipment for mounting housings and installing key parts. This process reflects the industrial growth and mass production of machinery in the middle of the 20th century. Experimental shoes with built-in steel springs were designed to increase step length and accelerate movement. The spring mechanism in the sole was supposed to reduce fatigue and absorb shock load. The development remained at the experimental stage due to instability and high risk of injury. The talking robot was created for the 1936 Texas Centennial Exposition as a demonstration of engineering achievements. He could play back pre-recorded phrases and move his head. The device has become one of the most popular attractions of the event. Scooter race on an indoor track in Melbourne, Australia, 1930s. The track had sloping turns, allowing for high speed. The competitions regularly attracted dozens of participants and hundreds of spectators. British minibus Wrightcraft scooter car, 1935. The length of the car was about 1.5 metres and the maximum speed reached 25 km/h. It was used for economical city trips and became one of the smallest production cars of its time. A woman installs a protective cover on a spare tyre of a car, circa the 1930s. The cover protected the rubber from the sun, moisture and dirt. This detail extended the life of the wheel and gave the car a more accurate appearance. The first portable milk bar at Waterloo Station, London, 1937. A mobile counter served passengers directly on the platform, offering milk and milkshakes. The novelty quickly became a popular service element on British railways. Schoolchildren listened to a recording on a dictaphone, circa the 1930s. The device played audio material for teaching and training speech perception. This technique was used in educational institutions before the widespread use of tape recorders. Television cameras at Lord's Stadium, 1938. They were used to broadcast one of the first cricket matches between England and Australia. This was an important step in the development of sports broadcasting. A man plays curling on a frozen pond in Wimbledon, early 20th century. Frozen ponds were used as natural playgrounds for this sport. Curling was popular in the UK long before the advent of indoor arenas. American Marines are trained to fire the Browning M19-919 machine gun, World War II. The tape supplied up to 250 rounds, providing a long continuous fire. Weapons were widely used on all fronts, both easel and tank. General George Custer and Colonel William Ludlow pose with a dead grizzly, 1874. The picture was taken during an expedition to South Dakota. The expedition studied the region before the beginning of the development of the Black Hills. Sale of eggs at a roadside kiosk, 1930s. Such points allowed farmers to sell products directly to passing motorists. The format quickly spread to rural areas of the United States. The first J.K. Penney store opened on April 14, 1902 in Kemmerer, Wyoming, under the name Golden Rule Store. Penney and his family lived in the attic of the building. This store became the beginning of the J.C. Penney national chain. Two women undergo artificial solar irradiation, 1920s, 1930s. The lamps were used for tanning and preventing vitamin D deficiency. Such therapy was considered useful before the appearance of data on the dangers of excessive ultraviolet radiation. Hollywood, circa 1900. At that time, it was a small rural settlement with a population of about 500 people surrounded by orchards. Main Street was a dirt road connecting it to Los Angeles. A sandcastle building competition in Westerland, Germany, circa 1895. The participants build complex figures on the beach of the North Sea. Mrs. Dolly Gann, the half-sister of US Vice President Charles Curtis, distributes food to unemployed men in Washington, 1930. The action took place at the height of the Great Depression. Gann was actively involved in charitable initiatives. Workshop for the production of tombstones on the Thessaloniki front, the First World War. Slabs were carved here for soldiers who died in the Battle of Kaymakchalan. The work was carried out right in the front line area. Children's Motor Bus, 1912. The gasoline-powered structure was designed to transport children in urban environments. Such models reflected the transition from horse-drawn carriages to motorised transport. Sir Winston Churchill with his wife Clementine on his 90th birthday, London, November 30th, 1964. The photo was taken at their home on Hyde Park Gate. Less than 2 months later, Churchill died in the same house. Adolf Hitler poses with children circa 1938, using similar images for propaganda. Already on September 1, 1939, he launched the invasion of Poland, unleashing World War II. This conflict has engulfed most of the world's countries and led to unprecedented destruction. Tens of millions of people became victims. Soldiers of the First World War, during a homemade theatrical performance where male actors played female roles due to the lack of women. Such productions were popular in army camps and hospitals to maintain morale. The costumes were made from improvised fabrics and props available at the front. A rare mobile peanut roaster from the late 19th century, made in the Victorian-era style. The case is hand-painted with the inscription, "Fresh Peanuts," and is equipped with a mechanism for roasting nuts on the spot. The large wheel design made it easy to move the stall through the streets for street trading. Boys with white armbands watch a Red Army soldier at the intersection of Berliner Straße and Quitzow in Berlin, spring 1945. White armbands were worn by civilians to indicate their non-combat status. The scene took place in the last weeks of the Second World War in Europe. An elegant silver case with a filigree ornament and a Star of David holds a scroll with Hebrew text and colourful miniatures. Such objects, created in the 16th to 9th centuries, were used to read the Book of Esther on the holiday of Purim. The rich decoration and fine workmanship of the master make it not only a ritual, but also a status symbol of the Jewish family. On February 8, 1954, Marilyn Monroe received a special US Department of Defense identification card to travel to Korea. The document assigned her the conditional rank and status of a civilian non-combatant, indicating her lack of religious affiliation. The card contained her photo, signature and fingerprints, confirming her participation in a tour to support the troops. On July 29, 1981, Princess Diana's bridesmaids adjust the train of her wedding dress on the steps of Buckingham Palace. Prince Edward is watching the process, while the royal motorcade waits in the background. The moment became part of one of the most famous weddings of the 20th century. The year is 1912. The crew members of the Titanic who survived the disaster were photographed shortly after being rescued by the Carpathia ship. Of the 200 surviving sailors, 138 have found shelter at the Institute for the Relief of American Sailors on West Street in New York, many still wearing their issued rescue clothes. In 1977, Linda became the first African-American woman to graduate from the Delaware National Guard officer course. The photo shows her graduation ceremony with Governor Pierre Dupont and military officials. Later, in 1981, she received a diploma from the NBC School of Chemistry. On October 3, 1944, soldiers of the 703rd Artillery Battalion of the US Army used a captured German 88mm Park 43 anti-tank gun in the vicinity of Metz, France. This powerful weapon, originally designed to fight tanks, was used by the Americans to bombard enemy fortified positions, which indicates the high value of German technology even in the hands of the Allies. Siamese twins. Millie and Christina McCoy were born into slavery in 1851 and were forced to perform in public until they were freed in 1864. After emancipation, they mastered 5 languages, learned to dance and sing, with one having a soprano and the other a contralto. Crayola Gold Medal, wax crayon box in 8 colors, produced by Binney & Smith Co., New York, early 20th century. Such kits were used in schools for educational work on drawing and illustration. Mexican workers in California during a strike, October 1933. A poster on the truck reads, "Disarm the rich, arm the poor farmers," reflecting the radical sentiments of the protesters at the height of the Great Depression. A tin can of Colgate's antiseptic tooth powder, manufactured by Colgate & Co., New York, USA. Such powders were used in the late 19th and early 20th centuries to clean and whiten teeth before the widespread use of toothpaste in tubes. Berlin residents talk with Red Army soldiers on a city street, April 1945. The scene reflects the first contacts between Soviet soldiers and the local population in the last days of World War II in Europe. 2 boys are assembling a large-scale electric model railway with miniature houses and artificial snow. A bridge, stations and traffic lights are installed on the model. Lionel trains are moving along the rails. The colour picture was taken on Kodachrome film in 1946. An Egyptian peasant carries a reporter on his back through flooded lands in Aswan. A journalist films the flooding of the Nile using a portable movie camera. The photo was taken around 1927. During the Arab uprising of 1936–1939, the British used pony trucks, small open platforms in front of armoured trains. Local residents were put on them to prevent the rebels from undermining the tracks. Such tactics were used as a means of intimidation and deterrence of sabotage. A field tea set from the early 20th century, packed in a leather suitcase. The set includes a copper kettle with a stove, knives with bone handles, metal containers, enamelled mugs and plates. Such kits were used by the British military and travellers in the colonies. Newspaper clipping about the return of the 339th Infantry Regiment of the US Army from northern Russia after the intervention of 1918-1919. The publication refutes rumours of a mutiny that arose during the regiment's stay in Archaeology. The photo shows military personnel and officers, including sergeants and company commanders. The photo shows pharmacy products from the early 20th century, including Bayer-heroin pills, which were used as painkillers and cough suppressants before the ban. Nearby there are White Clover Cream Cosmetics, Dr. W. M. Hall's Balsam, Baume Bengue analgesic ointment and Crane's kidney pills for kidney treatment. Such products were freely sold without a prescription before the introduction of modern drug control rules. On August 3, 1943, Orson Welles and assistant George "Shorty" Sorello demonstrate a trick by taking Rita Hayworth out of a drawer at the premiere of the Mercury Wonder Show. The performance was organised in Hollywood for military personnel at the height of the Second World War. The show combined illusionism and comedy, raising the morale of the audience. A married couple looks at televisions in a store, 1963. During this period, colour television was just beginning to gain popularity in the United States, and large models in wooden cases were considered a luxury item. The high cost made them accessible mainly to well-off families. British Army airship Delta in flight circa the early 1910s until 1914. The device was used for reconnaissance and surveillance, equipped with a gondola with a crew and an engine. On the ground, a group of people watching the flight is running after him. Knife sharpeners in France, early 1900s. They worked lying down to reduce the strain on their backs, and dogs were kept on them to warm their legs. This method made it possible to keep working longer in cold workshops. Electric facial massager from the Montgomery Ward catalogue, 1971. The device was powered by two C-type batteries and was designed to massage the skin in order to improve blood circulation and apply creams. The length is about 18 cm, lightweight plastic case, portable format. The transfer of the Abu Simbel Temple in Aswan, Egypt, 1964-1968. The giant statues of Ramesses the Sanctor were sawn into blocks weighing up to 30 tons and moved higher up the slope to escape flooding by the waters of Lake Nasser. The operation became part of an international project under the auspices of UNESCO. Fanny Dirac, Wilhelmina Wiley and Jenny Fletcher at the Olympic Games in Stockholm, July 6-22, 1912. It was the first Olympic Games in which women participated in swimming competitions. Dirac won gold and Wiley won silver in the 100 meters freestyle. Fidel Castro on the beach of Playa Girón, Cuba, 1961, the site of the failed invasion by US-backed forces known as Operation Cochinos Bay. The invasion began on April 17, 1961, and ended with the complete defeat of the interventionists in 72 hours. The event consolidated Castro's power and strengthened the Soviet-Cuban alliance. In 1986, an Indian man spent 72 hours in a cage with 72 particularly venomous snakes to prove that they do not attack without provocation. The experiment was conducted under the supervision of the audience and specialists. He walked out of the cage without a single bite, setting a world record. In 1847, the Mexican-American War became the first armed conflict captured on camera. On the daguerreotypes of that time, you can see battle scenes and military columns, immortalized by photography for the first time. These images mark the beginning of a new era of documenting the war. A Jewish woman, from the Bnei Horat tribe, Arabian Peninsula, 1929. She is wearing a traditional costume and a burqa covering her face, the rarest visual document about the Jewish communities of the region before their disappearance. A rare frame captures the moment when Che Guevara was captured by the Bolivian military in 1967. His detention put an end to the armed campaign in Bolivia. Photography has become a historical symbol of the fall of the legend of the revolution. A rare magic lantern from the late 19th century, designed for the projection of coloured glass slides. The metal body and lens system made it possible to display images for learning and entertainment. Such devices have become an important stage in the development of technologies that led to the emergence of cinema. March 1945, Luban, now Luban, Poland, one of the last German counterattacks on the Eastern Front. During Operation Gemsa, Wehrmacht troops briefly recaptured the city from the Red Army, suffering heavy losses. Within a few weeks, Luban finally came under Soviet control. Early 20th century Somalia. 3 men in traditional clothes, long draped tobe fabrics and Makawi sarongs adapted to the hot climate. This outfit combined practicality, sun protection and cultural identity. Sarah Opelia Colley Cannon, a future star under the stage name Minnie Pearl, began her career in the late 1930s and performed on the stage of the Grand Ole Opry in 1940. Her comedic image with its distinctive hat and price tag has become one of the most recognizable symbols of American show business of the 20th century. Elvis Presley, a graduate of L.S. Humes High School in Memphis, June 1953. He is 18 years old, dressed in a formal suit and tie, with neatly styled hair. The photo was taken during his graduation period, 2 years before the start of his professional music career. A woman passes time control at a factory on April 13, 1953. She holds a service card in her hands and uses a mechanical device to record working hours. Manchurian women at the dinner table, Beijing, 1869. The picture was taken by Scottish photographer John Thompson during his trip to China. The women are dressed in traditional Manchu costumes and wear distinctive liangbatu headdresses. A whaling suit from Greenland, made before 1834. Made of solid sealskin, completely waterproof, with a central entrance hole. The exhibit is kept in the National Museum of Denmark and is the only fully preserved example of this type. French wrestlers in a training hall circa 1900, shot on a high-detail glass photo negative. It depicts the heyday of professional wrestling and physical culture in France. The sunken German battlecruiser SMS Hindenburg in Scapa Flow Bay, June 21, 1919. The ship was interned after World War I and scuttled on the orders of Admiral Ludwig von Reuter to avoid being captured by the British. It was raised in 1930 and dismantled for metal by 1932. Abby Paggi, Stockton, lifts a 135 lb, 61 kg barbell at Oil Beach, Santa Monica, 1940s. The American athlete became a pioneer of women's weightlifting and a popularizer of strength training among women. Belgian refugee children in class at an open school near The Hague, the Netherlands, 1915. The school building was handed over to the Red Cross, which accommodated 50 children and 18 adults. The educational process for the arrivals was organised on the spot. Brigitte Bardot near the trailer during the filming of the movie Viva Maria in Cuautla, Mexico, 1964. In between takes, the actress cools her feet in the water due to the intense heat. The picture was taken by photographer John R. Hamilton. The Beatles during the filming of the movie Help on the beach of Cabbage Beach, Bahamas, February 1965. Filming took place on the islands of Paradise and New Providence as part of the first part of the film production. Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro on the set of the movie This Boy's Life, 1993, and a photo together 3 decades later. DiCaprio's first full-length work was the beginning of their creative collaboration.